If you stand on the edge of the practice turf down in Costa Mesa right now, you can literally feel the tension in the air. The late summer heat is one thing, but what's really suffocating is the sheer weight of expectations. We are witnessing a franchise undergoing a massive, desperate, and absolutely thrilling metamorphosis. The Los Angeles Chargers haven't just tweaked their playbook for the 2026 season, they have completely ripped out their operational DNA and started from scratch. For years, this team has been the NFL's ultimate sleeping giant. You've got Justin Herbert, right? A guy with one of the most physically gifted right arms to ever throw a football, and yet this team has continually found a way to fall short in the absolute bloodbath that is the AFC. Let's be real for a second. We are talking about a conference where Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow dictate the terms of engagement. You can't just be good to survive in that ecosystem. You have to be revolutionary. You have to evolve. And right now, inside this very specific, hyper-focused training camp, a quiet revolution is taking place. The national spotlight is blindingly focused on Los Angeles right now, and the whispers coming out of camp are all pointing to something monumental. But before we get into the granular X's and O's details of how this team is completely rewiring its offense, do me a quick favor. Hit that subscribe button, drop a like on this explainer, comment your opinion down below, and support the channel by becoming a member of NFL Nexus. We've got a massive amount of ground to cover today, and you won't want to miss a second of it.
So, let's start with the foundation of this entire experiment. When Jim Harbaugh was brought in as head coach, the entire football world immediately knew the culture was going to shift. We expected gritty, hard-nosed, relentless accountability. That's just the Harbaugh way. But the absolute masterstroke? That was pairing him with Mike McDaniel. In the NFL, egos clash constantly. We have seen this play out throughout football history so many times. You get a dominant, culture-building alpha dog head coach, and he ends up stifling a brilliant offensive coordinator because of philosophical friction. The head coach wants to run the ball, control the clock, play defense, and play it safe. Meanwhile, the offensive coordinator wants to push the tempo, spread the field, and light up the scoreboard. It usually ends in a messy divorce. But look at this quote from Mike McDaniel. This right here, this is the skeleton key to the entire Chargers 2026 season. McDaniel explicitly states that Harbaugh gives him responsibility and entirely refuses to micromanage. He goes out of his way to call Harbaugh an elite leader specifically because of that trust. Guys, this isn't just your standard boring coach speak. This is a public declaration of complete unfiltered offensive autonomy. Harbaugh has looked at the Ferrari, tossed the keys over to one of the most innovative offensive minds in the modern game, and essentially said, "You drive." Harbaugh is focusing his immense energy on the macro culture of the locker room, while McDaniel is in the lab, operating completely without friction. He doesn't have a head coach looking over his shoulder, second-guessing a fourth down call. He has the full, unwavering backing of the top guy. And honestly, that absolute trust is what's making this Chargers camp uniquely dangerous. It is a terrifying prospect for the rest of the league.
Section 1. The 2026 Chargers Overhaul. A modern offensive mind arrives.
I need to make something crystal clear. The 2026 Chargers overhaul is not a fresh coat of paint. It's not a minor adjustment. It is a violent demolition and a complete rebuild from the foundation up. We are looking at a structural shift of massive proportions for a franchise that has exhausted a really long list of coaching names over the last decade. Fans in LA have watched brilliant defensive minds, traditionalist offensive minds, and basically everything in between try to crack the code, but absolutely none of them brought the specific, cutting-edge, space and pace philosophy that Mike McDaniel is currently installing. The Chargers offense is officially freed from the Greg Roman era. Now look, to be completely fair to history, Greg Roman is a pioneer in his own right. He has engineered some incredibly effective punishing running attacks in his career. His heavy-set gap-blocking schemes are brutal. They wear you down. They impose their will. But we live in the modern NFL. This is a league where the rules heavily favor space, passing, and sheer unpredictability. Running a rigid, heavy-set offensive philosophy in today's game can honestly feel like trying to win a Formula One race while driving a tank. Sure, you're heavily armored, but everyone else is just flying right past you. For Chargers fans, watching their franchise quarterback operate in schemes that didn't maximize his extraordinary processing speed and elite arm talent, it was just agonizing. So this departure from previous offensive regimes to this new, hyper-modern system, it feels exactly like what reports out of camp are calling it an off-season Super Bowl. The heavy, predictable formations are gone. They are being replaced by blinding pre-snap motion, elaborate misdirection, and a wide-zone philosophy that is literally designed to make opposing linebackers and safeties process complex geometry in fractions of a second. It is a total transition from brute force to high-speed leverage.
And this massive schematic overhaul is exactly why McDaniel was given a blank check by Harbaugh and the front office to execute a hyper-targeted roster revamp. He didn't just tweak the edges of the 53-man roster, he aggressively hunted down specific weapons to fit a highly specific, high-octane vision. Let's look at the chess pieces they acquired. First, McDaniel brought in fullback Alec Ingold. Now you might be thinking, a fullback? I thought you said this was a modern offense. Well, in a McDaniel wide zone running scheme, a fullback isn't just a battering ram like the old days. He is a vital piece of blocking leverage. Ingold dictates defensive gap assignments and creates those crucial cutback lanes for the tailback. He's a human eraser for edge defenders. Then, they completely reshaped the middle of the field by adding Charlie Kolar and the incredibly explosive David Njoku at tight end. Just think about what this does to a defense trying to run a standard cover 3. Having a dynamic, vertical threat like Njoku tearing up the seam completely paralyzes linebackers. It forces safeties to make impossible split-second choices, which naturally opens up the outside boundaries for the receivers. They didn't stop there. They added the blazing speed of running back Keaton Mitchell, and they drafted wideout Brennan Thompson to stretch the field horizontally and vertically. And perhaps most importantly, and we'll dig into this more in a bit, they have constructed an entirely new interior offensive line. You don't make these kinds of sweeping, massive changes across every single layer of the depth chart unless the organization trusts your blueprint implicitly. McDaniel looked at the existing roster, identified exactly what was missing to build his high-speed machine, and the front office went out and secured every single one of those parts.
Section 2. Unleashing Justin Herbert. Rewriting the playbook.
All of those new weapons, all of that dizzying pre-snap motion, all of these complex blocking schemes, they all ultimately serve one singular vital purpose: unleashing number 10. Justin Herbert is the ultimate beneficiary of this radical transformation. We are talking about a quarterback who has the raw arm strength to make throws that most humans can't even dream of, combined with the intellect to process defensive coverages instantly. Yet, despite all of that established greatness, he is fundamentally altering how he plays the quarterback position this summer. McDaniel literally forced Herbert to completely rework his footwork. Just take a second and let that sink in. A Pro Bowl caliber, franchise-defining $100 million quarterback is in training camp right now, breaking down his fundamental mechanics from the ground up. This is the hidden, gritty reality of learning a Mike McDaniel offense. It is not just about memorizing some new terminology or drawing up new routes on a whiteboard. It is about absolute, terrifying precision of timing. McDaniel's offense relies on the quarterback transitioning from deep traditional dropbacks to highly rhythmic quick-game footwork that syncs perfectly with receiver breaks. Think about it like this. If the quarterback's footwork is off by a half second, the entire concept dies. Herbert's back foot has to hit the turf at the exact millisecond the receiver plants his foot to make his cut. It's a symphony. McDaniel forced Herbert to unlearn years of old muscle memory and rebuild his mechanical foundation. For a veteran quarterback to humble himself, accept that kind of structural teardown, and just embrace the grind, that speaks volumes about Herbert's absolute buy-in. And the best part? The reports out of camp are saying the results look incredibly crisp. Herbert isn't just surviving this mechanical transition, he is thriving in it. He is operating with a deadly, surgical new rhythm.
But this philosophical shift, it extends way beyond just quarterback mechanics. It changes fundamentally how this team will operate on game day. The old NFL relied heavily on rigid depth charts and expected snap counts. You knew exactly who the starter was, you knew he was going to get 75 to 80% of the snaps. And guess what? The defense knew it too. It was comfortable, sure, but it was incredibly predictable. McDaniel's vision for 2026 takes a sledgehammer to that old-school mentality. His approach relies entirely on modern unpredictability. It's about riding the hot hand, completely regardless of the name on the back of the jersey, the size of the contract, or where a guy was drafted. This is an absolute nightmare for opposing defensive coordinators. When an offense operates with a strict, predictable hierarchy, a defense can sit in meeting rooms all week and scheme perfectly to take away that primary weapon. But when an offense is willing to pivot its entire game plan in real time, based solely on who happens to be exploiting a specific matchup on that specific Sunday afternoon, it becomes this amorphous, constantly evolving threat. It keeps the defense on its heels, it keeps the players in the locker room hungry, and it perfectly maximizes the immense depth the Chargers have built over this offseason.
And nowhere, absolutely nowhere, is this unpredictable, ruthless approach more evident than in the running back room. We are looking at a true hot hand committee featuring Omarion Hampton, Keaton Mitchell, and Kamani Vidal. McDaniel has made it abundantly clear to anyone watching camp this summer, he does not care about pedigree, he doesn't care about draft status, and he certainly doesn't care about your fantasy football team. Whoever is moving the chains gets the rock. And look at the specific skill sets here. Each of these backs presents a completely distinct nightmare for a defense. First, you have Omarion Hampton. He brings that bruising, downhill, physical power that can just utterly wear down a defensive front in the fourth quarter. Then you pivot to Keaton Mitchell, who brings lightning-fast perimeter speed. Mitchell is the guy who can turn a simple outside zone run into a 60-yard touchdown if a linebacker takes one single false step. And finally, you have Kamani Vidal, who offers dynamic versatility and elite pass-catching ability out of the backfield. Just paint this picture in your mind for a second. An opposing defensive coordinator is scrambling on the sideline, frantically trying to yell out adjustments to his personnel grouping because the Chargers just swapped their power back for their speed back without even huddling. A defense will spend an entire week preparing for a heavy physical rushing attack, only for McDaniel to realize in the first quarter that Mitchell has the hot hand, completely flipping the script, stretching the field horizontally and detonating the defensive game plan before halftime.
Section 3. The Training Camp Bombshell. Trench Warfare detonates the script.
Now, to truly understand what is happening out there in Los Angeles, we have to zoom in from these macro-level coaching philosophies and quarterback mechanics and look straight down into the dirt. We have to look at the grit of the offensive line, because we all know the golden rule of the NFL. Championships are won and lost in the trenches, period. If Justin Herbert doesn't have the time to execute this beautiful, complex, timing-based offense, absolutely none of McDaniel's genius matters. It's all just theory on a chalkboard. Coming into the summer, the battle for the starting left guard spot was supposed to be standard operating procedure. It was supposed to be a regular battle among established veterans. You had Coyote Awasipa, Trey Pipkins III, and Jake Slaughter. These are familiar, comfortable names, guys with lots of tape, guys the front office fully expected to hold down the interior and keep Herbert clean. Pipkins has real starting experience, Awasipa has battled in the trenches for years, and Slaughter brings reliable veteran depth. This was the established status quo. The coaching staff had their expectations, the media had their depth chart projections locked in, the players knew the hierarchy. But training camp is where established expectations are put into the crucible and set on fire. And in this specific trench battle, an entirely unexpected disruptor has emerged from the pack.
Branson Taylor, a name that was absolutely not at the top of the marquee heading into August, is now out there taking first-team reps and completely blowing up the established order. This is exactly what it means to detonate the preseason script. Taylor hasn't just politely asked for a shot. He has physically forced his way directly into the starting conversation, turning what everyone viewed as a mundane depth battle into one of the absolute most fascinating, high-stakes storylines of this entire camp. So why does this matter so much? Why is an offensive guard battle so critical? Because it proves to every single player on that 53-man roster that the culture Jim Harbaugh and Mike McDaniel are building is real. It is a pure, unadulterated meritocracy. But a pure meritocracy comes with massive consequences. For veteran morale, it means nobody's job is safe. You can't rest on your laurels, which creates an environment of intense, relentless daily competition. And for the actual execution of the offense, a young, hungry disruptor like Taylor physically changes the way the offensive line blocks. Remember, in McDaniel's wide zone scheme, offensive linemen need elite lateral quickness. They need the agility and aggression to reach the second level of the defense and swallow up linebackers in space. Taylor's explosive rise in camp strongly suggests that he is executing those specific, highly technical blocking assignments better than the guys who've been doing this for years. He is the physical manifestation of the Chargers' new identity, unpredictable, incredibly hungry, and entirely focused on results rather than reputation.
Section 4. A one-year window. The ticking clock in Los Angeles.
So we've talked about the incredible roster additions. We've talked about the brilliant dynamic between the head coach and coordinator. We've seen the mechanical changes to a superstar quarterback and the gritty, merit-based battles in the trenches. It all sounds absolutely perfect, right? It sounds like the beginning of a beautiful decade-long dynasty. But there is a massive, dark cloud hanging over all this California sunshine. The reality is, this might be Mike McDaniel's one and only year with the Los Angeles Chargers. In the NFL, incredible success always comes with a heavy price tag, and that price is almost always your coaching staff getting poached by the rest of the league. We have seen this historical reality play out time and time again. Whenever a brilliant coordinator engineers a massive turnaround, they instantly become the hottest head coaching target on the market. Just look at recent history. Look at the constant, relentless hiring cycle rumors that surround Ben Johnson in Detroit every single offseason. Look at how quickly Shane Steichen was poached by the Colts after his brilliant work designing the Eagles' offense. Look at DeMeco Ryans leaving San Francisco for Houston the absolute second his defensive masterpiece was complete. If Mike McDaniel matches the massive hype that is currently building at camp, if this offense comes out in September of 2026 and absolutely scorches the earth in the AFC, McDaniel will instantly become the most sought-after name in the sport. Owners across the league will look at the tape, they'll see what he did to finally unlock Justin Herbert's ultimate potential, and they will offer him a blank check and the keys to their own franchise. And that creates an atmosphere of total, unyielding, almost suffocating urgency for the Chargers right now. There is no building for year two, there is no trusting the three-year process. The window of having this highly specific, lethal combination of coaching intellect and on-field talent might literally slam permanently shut in 12 months.
Which leaves us staring down the barrel of the million-dollar question heading into the season. If the Chargers actually match this monumental hype, will Mike McDaniel be gone by 2027?
It is an incredibly bittersweet reality for Chargers fans. You are finally getting the Ferrari you've been begging for. You are watching what feels like a total, fundamental revitalization of your beloved franchise, but in the back of your mind, you know that ultimate success might cost you the very architect who built it. The stakes for this one single year simply could not possibly be any higher. Every snap, every pre-snap motion, every single game plan carries the profound emotional weight of a franchise desperately trying to capture lightning in a bottle before the driver of this high-speed machine leaves town for good. So, what do you think? Will this trio of Harbaugh, McDaniel, and Herbert finally conquer the highly competitive AFC this year? Can they get past Mahomes and Allen? And if they actually do it, is McDaniel destined to leave them behind? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read all of them. As always, thank you so much for diving deep into the details with us here on NFL Nexus. Don't forget to subscribe, drop a like on this explainer, and consider becoming a channel member to support more cinematic, deep-dive NFL explainers just like this one. Until next time, keep your eyes on the gridiron.